Wonderful people, good evening to you all. Good evening. So, lovely people, as per usual, my normal line in watching the news, or I was watching the news. So, I was watching the news, and I'm going to say this in hindsight. The, all right, I'm going to try and I'm a little bit more calm right now. Let's refer to the man as human. I was listening, and I heard the age of the man. But I think on the news, when it really registered, because I was so irate and incensed, I could not focus on that. But this evening, now that I'm a little bit more settled, and I listened to the news when it said the 65-year-old man, the man who could be my father in terms of age, the 65-year-old man was slapped with 5 counts of charges. I don't even remember some of them right now. And obviously, assault would be one of them, some bodily harm, the pulling of the gun and whatnot. And I said to myself, I'm thinking of the particular when I had given the example of being verbally abused and threatened to obviously to be physically abused because a man was losing domino game to a female because there was no altercation, there was no perceived animosity. In fact, it's somebody that we're not friends, we're not bosom buddies, we have not had any sort of negative encounter. It is always when you see each other, how are you? Is everything okay? And so on. And that would be basically the second time beating him at the game. And it became quite abusive, the entire scene. And it's also a big man in that around that age category. So I'm wondering if there what age what era you call it, the baby boomers era? Is it that there was some sort of trauma that happened to them? Because it certainly isn't adding up. And these are just two of the many men in that age group that are dreadful men. Dreadful. And let me say this, if you're a wonderful man, if you're a good man, not a perfect man, because no human being on this planet is perfect, you should not take offense to this because you're a good man and you know yourself. So if they get up and they talk about women who do this and I know that I don't do that, I can only sympathize and or empathize as the case may be, and I will beastly hit out against it as well. All right, but I would not ingest it and personalize it because I know that you have quite a number of good women around, just as so you would have the bad ones. But what bothers me, my wonderful people, I'm thinking at that age when they call you senior citizen, it means that you would have been on the planet for a decent time. You know what I mean? A good time. You would have experienced the life's challenges, some bliss, no matter who you are. And I would expect that you're at the consultant stage and age and phase where you are now the mentor to the mentee. That you are one of those men who would get up and say, you know what, I've lived a certain, I have, on the basis of what the Bible has promulgated, he would have had maybe 5 more years to live, because the Bible talks about 70, which takes you up to 70. So he would, if he goes up to the exact 70, then he knows he would have lived according to that, as that section of the Bible, unless he goes into by reason of strength. So 65 years as a businessman, an accomplished man to an extent, and you just derailed all of that on nothing. One of the most disturbing things that you could ever do in life, to harm, to abuse, to embitter, to be harsh, to be cold, to be callous, to be evil, to be wicked, to be virulent to a female, and to a female who you don't know what life will bring or can bring. That God forbid, if something should happen to you physically and you should go to a hospital, that is the same woman who now comes to your aid and to your rescue. It boggles my mind and staggers my very imagination to see A big old staring man at his age, who I'm assuming is father, grandfather, could be even great grand, because some people have their children very young, very young, and then their children come and do the same and so on. Somebody told me of a 28-year-old grandmother, and I'm sure you have younger ages grandmother. Yes, contrary to popular belief. You know what I mean? Remember the Bible talk about babes having babes? So those things are possible. People under 30 are grandparents. And this 65-year-old man who should think about being a mentor decided to be a hinderer, an obstacle, a hindrance. And what bothers me also, my lovely people, when we talk, we have we have the audacity to be hitting out against the young ones. Have you any wonder why maybe the young ones are like that? You wonder why some of the young ones do that? Remember the old adage, children live what they learn. You think that's a joke? You think that's just a cliche? It is reality. Have you ever seen children, you're saying something and they're repeating it and trying to say it the exact same way you're saying it? It is because they're learning, they're trying to understand human language. They're trying to understand human emotions, why you're saying what you're saying. So they're curious, their curiosity is it's peak. It's at a high because they're learning human ways and language and behaviors and attitudes and attributes and then they form that social construct that is being built up until they become the adult that they become on the basis of what is ingested and they experience. That man ought to be ashamed of himself. I wouldn't mind when he's sitting, like if he is, to charge, then he should go to, like they just play that video over and over and over again in his face. Just keep playing it over for a week straight, over and over and over again. Or let us say, God forbid, suppose that were his mother or his daughter or a female that he loves and respects dearly. Because no matter how terrible a human being is, there is even one person that they love and respect. If it is even one. On both ends of the spectrum, meaning both genders or both sexes, male, female. So it's even one or two that they love, admire, and that they respect. Can you imagine them seeing a man do that to that individual, especially if it's a female? I would love to know his reaction. I would love to know what his reaction would be. The 65-year-old, the senior citizen, old man who may go up to 70 years. He would have, if he goes according to what the Bible says, he probably only has 5 more years. And then maybe God say, time to go. Soul, your soul is now required of you. And if his life is not submitted to Jesus Christ wholeheartedly, you know that it is not, when judgment day comes, he will not be going to in front of the bema, where the children of God will go, those who will make it into the heavenly realms. And when I talk about heavenly realms, we're not talking about something that the demonic section. We're talking about the holy heavenly realm. Heaven itself, where Jesus resides. 65 years of age. And engaging in an act that is incomprehensible, that is unseeming, that is so evil, that is so wicked. And if he's married and has children, can you imagine how they feel to see an abuser like that in that manner? And usually it is something that was done before. It's not new to him. It's just that we now get to see the kind of human being he is at 65 years of age. 60 odd. Mighty God. Mighty God. And there are many like him. A shame and a disgrace to the human race. 5 charges they slap on him, guys. Anyway, guys, you know what to do. Read TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe. Give me one of those lions.